To start this video off, I want to apologize for the mic quality. I only got a headset. That's all I have to use to record audio. And I also want to say that these moments in the show shouldn't be considered the best or most memorable to everybody. They're just moments that stuck out to me when I was a child. There's obviously so many more amazing scenes not on this list that are a lot more memorable than these ones. Thank you. The very first scene I'd like to speak on is Team Avatar invading the Earth Kingdom. In this scene specifically, we've got Appa in the back, Sokka and Katara in front of him. Katara is using her water whip to defend against earthbenders, and Toph and Aang are in the front of them, just tearing everybody up. I personally think a very significant moment in this scene is when Toph uses her earthbending to flatten all the stairs leading up to the castle. The amount of focus and precision demonstrated in this scene specifically is top tier and is one of the best bending sequences, in my opinion, throughout the whole show, and I almost left it out. The next scene I'd like to speak on is when Aang and Katara are in the cave in the Fire Nation, and Aang invites everyone at school to a party. The music and the dance choreography animation in this scene, and the way Aang shows everyone how to express their feelings in such a way, I believe is so dope. Aang says,
"Listen guys, dancing isn't something you think about. It's a form of self-expression that no one can ever take away from you."
And demonstrates moves such as the Phoenix Flight. This scene eventually leads to Aang dancing, and slowly everyone starts to join in on the Happy Feet dance. Aang then asks Katara to dance and says, "Take my hand," and the two of them demonstrate an amazing dance while Katara is in a mixture of embarrassment and being flustered. Aang then says, "Don't worry about them, it's just you and me right now." They continue to dance until the Fire Nation shows up, shuts it down, Team Avatar escapes, and then Katara kisses Aang on the cheek, and he blushes. The next scene that is memorable to me by far is when Guru Pratik is explaining to Aang what he has to do. They have a rough 10-minute conversation about what needs to happen, and near the end of the encounter, Aang is walking on a bridge of sorts in what looks like space with purple ambient lighting to it, and he looks up and he sees a giant version of himself where his tattoos are glowing, and we see a plethora of stars and everything is just purple, and he's walking on the bridge and he sees himself in an orb, which quickly transitions to Aang seeing Katara in danger, and she's yelling,
Let me go!
He runs to Pratik and the bridge falls behind him. He ends up leaving the spirit state, and Guru Pratik tells him,
"No, Aang. By choosing attachment, you have locked the chakra. If you leave now, you won't be able to go into the avatar state at all."
Aang briefly contemplates this, but ultimately chooses Katara and goes to rescue her. This scene stands out to me because for some odd reason, it scared me as a kid. This is confusing to me because nothing about the scene is scary. If anything, it's a sadder scene because Guru Pratik basically tells Aang he can't succeed his duties without completely abandoning Katara, which we know as the viewers that this isn't the case, and Aang ends up achieving his goals and takes away Ozai's bending for good in the Avatar state. As I said, for some reason this scared me as a kid, and that's why it sticks out to me so much. The scene we're going to talk about now is one of the greatest in the entire show, in my opinion, by far. And the scene I'm talking about is the entire library slash Appa being stolen art. This specific scene is so amazing to me because when they're in the library, and Toph is obviously outside because, as we all know, she's blind, and going into a library is very useless to someone like her. Now, we know Toph uses her seismic sense to quote-unquote see things, but at this point in the show, they're in the desert, and her seismic sense just doesn't work as good. She says everything's so fuzzy. The owl in the library feels that Team Avatar had abused the knowledge of the library to gain an upper hand at war, so he planned to sink the entire library with them inside to remove the knowledge from the physical world. While this is happening, Toph is trying her hardest to keep the library from sinking whilst also trying to defend Appa. She ultimately decides her friends' lives are more valuable in the moment, which leads the Sandbenders to take Appa. Now, as we all know, Aang is not happy with the situation, and they go on a journey to look for him. They're all so dehydrated, and on top of this, Sokka's tripping balls off cactus juice. Aang's frustration shows most when they see a cloud, and Katara suggests that Aang glides up there, water bends the water from the cloud into her flask, And after he does this, Katara says something about how little water there was, and for a brief moment, Aang totally flips out and lets his emotions get the best of him. Later in the journey, Toph stubs her toe on a boat and says
And what idiot buried a boat in the middle of the desert?
A boat?
they end up using this boat to travel the desert and end up encountering the same people who took Appa. With Toph's earthbending, she can tell if people are lying and if they're the same person. And she ends up telling Aang that they are lying and it is the same guy who took Appa. Aang then finds out that they muzzled his bison and goes absolutely crazy. He immediately goes into Avatar state, destroys their boats, and scares literally everyone to the point where the man confesses to what he did, but tells Aang that they were going to sell Appa. Katara ends up going to him while he's in the Avatar state, grabs his hand, and basically tells him to stop and calm down while crying. And Aang ends up crying in the Avatar state as well. Luckily this does help, and Aang does calm down, but he ends up going unconscious. The episode ends there. This is again a very memorable scene to me, as it shows Aang's very strong feelings for his bison. Appa is more than a pet. He's a spirit and guide animal that a majority of air nomads have, and they share an unbreakable, lifelong bond. Appa is very crucial to the team, as Aang states earlier in the episode, saying that they're basically going to die without the help of Appa. The next main scene I want to bring up, before I bring up my two honorable mentions, I would say is arguably one of the greatest scenes in the entire show itself. And the scene I'm talking about is where Aang and Zuko are being judged by the dragons. They start this ceremony by bending some sort of fire circle and then drumming and chanting, which is basically the exact same song for the outro, just slightly different. As Zuko and Aang go up these stairs with fire, at the top, Aang ends up losing his ball of fire and tries to take some from Zuko, which then leads to Zuko and Aang both losing their fire. The dragons then come out of their dens, and Aang thankfully thinks of the greatest thing to do in a moment and tells Zuko that he believes the dragons want them to dance with him. Previously in the episode, Aang and Zuko see statues that lead them to follow said statues and dance, which opens some sort of secret door or something I can't entirely remember. Zuko and Aang perform the dragon dance, and we see the dragons perform their version of the same dance. The dragons are impressed and show them the true meaning of firebending, which is about life, energy, and creation, not just destruction, said by Aang. The animation in this scene specifically, with the colors of the fire and the music and the true meaning of firebending, is shown to them. Zuko and Aang now fully understand it and can use it to their fullest potential. Now I know there's more to this scene / episode, but I more wanted to speak on the animation of that specifically and the dance scene. These last two scenes are my honorable mentions, and one of them isn't really significant to the story, it's just kind of funny, while the other one is just cool. The first one I'll speak on is when Katara is trying to hunt down the man that killed her mother, and she eventually finds him, and their encounter in my opinion was pretty dope, because at some point in the encounter, Katara uses her waterbending to literally stop the rain around them and make an entire dome of water surrounding them, and then uses that same dome of water to make a bunch of icicles going down to stab and kill the man, but last second she changes her mind and instead gives a speech about his character and how he's pathetic, sad, and empty, and says as much as she hates him, she can't bring herself to kill him, and walks away after the man begged for his life and is now crying on the ground. This scene was very anxiety inducing because Katara is always the one trying to do what's right, and she almost kills the man. I'm not sure how the story or her character development would have played out if she did decide to take his life, but I'm glad she didn't. Now the final scene I want to speak on isn't really important to the story, but it's funny and it sticks out to me. The scene I'm talking about is when we meet Toph for one of the first times, and she's still known as the Blind Bandit, and she's in a match against the Boulder, and the way he speaks is already sort of funny, but he says,
"The Boulder feels conflicted about fighting a young blind girl.
Sounds to me like you're scared, Boulder.
The Boulder's over his conflicted feelings, and now he's ready to bury you in a rock-a-lanche."
Whenever you're ready, the Pebble.
Now I remember the scene so vividly because my friends and I would just constantly say the dumb
The boulder feels conflicted.
line over and over and over, and I'm not sure why we felt it was so funny, but we did. I'd like to wrap this video up by saying I know there's so many better scenes or more scenes in general that I could have talked about that I either just didn't think of before recording this or just decided against using it. So I do plan on making another, if not a few more videos like this. If you enjoyed the video, giving a sub and a like would be much appreciated. And comment about some of your favorite scenes from the show. I'd love to see what everyone has to say. This is my first ever video like this, so I'm sorry if some parts are more explained than others. Thanks again, and that's all for this video. Deuces.
His airbending skills are great. He has a lot to learn before he's ready to save anyone. But I believe Aang can save the world.